and welcome to my musings. Wondering what my musings are about today? When the whole world is obsessed with one single thing, how can I be an exception? Well, my musings today are about my newfound love, Corona. Wondering why I'm calling it my love? Well, there's a story
behind it.
like all of you, I too was scared of Corona. I too was panicky each time I heard a positive case of Corona or a death caused due to Corona. All this started affecting me so much that one fine day I decided that I will not think about Corona anymore. To distract myself, I sat on the sofa and put on the television. To my dismay, every channel across the TV had only Corona. Whether it was in the form of advertisements, information, or a part of the story in the TV serials or in the news, Corona was all across the television. I just couldn't avoid Corona. So I put aside the remote and decided that I will now not switch on the television and get depressed. So I went and switched on my laptop to get a hang of what's happening on the internet. To my utter dismay, there was Corona all across the internet as well, in the form of memes, jokes, information, and news again. So I decided that I will not touch the internet as well anymore. Decided it was time to catch up with some old friends. I called up a friend of mine, and guess what?
Before
Before
the
the
ring
ring
could
could
even
even
get
get
over
over
to
to
the
the
other
other
person,
person,
I
I
was
was
forced to
forced to
listen
listen
to
to
a
a
voice
voice
alert
alert
on
on
Corona.
Corona. I just couldn't bear it, put away the phone, and decided that I will not talk to anybody over the phone anymore. Look at my positivity. I thought now I would catch up with some friends in person. I'll go down to the park and meet some neighbors and friends and exchange some pleasantries with them. When I got up to leave for the park, my maid, my all time source of entertainment and my harbinger of news, walked in. And guess what? She tells me that there is a new positive case of Corona in our city. I told her not to talk anymore about Corona because I was not intending to talk about Corona. I wanted to avoid any news about this COVID-19 virus. I was going down to meet some neighbors. An adept in adding spice to news and making any news sensational, this maid of mine told me that all these ladies who gathered down in the park were also discussing about Corona, and she got this fresh news from them. I tell you, this maid of mine should have joined some news channel. She had all the talent and capabilities of a newsreader on an Indian news channel. I think it was her fate and my destiny that she ended up as a maid at my home. Well, coming back to my story of Corona, I was totally depressed at this point. How could I even think of escaping Corona? I was totally depressed and I was wondering how I was surrounded from all sides by this coronavirus. It was at this time that a WhatsApp message alert came to me, and I saw a very senior doctor talking in a medical conference and saying that fear had the capacity to bring down one's immunity. So it was very important for all of us to stay positive and mentally strong to keep away all kinds of diseases. This was a turning point in my thinking, and that is when I decided to give up my fear of Corona and to fall in love with Corona. And that is when I started listing down what are the positive effects of Corona. In fact, I'm still in the process of understanding the positive contributions of Corona. I suddenly realized that there were no more riots going on in the city against CAA or NRC. I realized that Article 370 and its effects no longer stood any ground at all. I understood that Pakistan and India were no longer discussing about Kashmir or POK. We were all busy fighting coronavirus. So that was a good sign indeed. I also noticed that China no longer emitted venom against any other country. So this was a new development, and we could see that all countries knowingly or unknowingly started embracing brotherhood. There is more of sympathy, empathy and compassion all across. That is a positive change indeed. The second thing I observed was that people aren't traveling much. No travel means no transportation, which means no carbon dioxide emission, which also means that there is much lesser pollution. In fact, the world has become a better place to live in thanks to Corona. With all the governments advising against traveling, I think this had to happen. Also, suddenly the entire world, India in specific, has started focusing on cleanliness and hygiene. Offices, schools, government organizations, railway stations, there is a sanitization drive all across, and that undeniably is thanks to Corona. Corona has managed to do what the Swachh Bharat movement couldn't drive in. Isn't that a positive thing about Corona? On a personal front, let me tell you, I no longer have to shout and yell at my kids to make them understand that they have to wash their hands before and after having a meal. It automatically happens thanks to the fear of Corona. So Corona has managed to do what I wasn't able to do all these years. It has brought in a discipline in my family. Did you also experience any of these positive effects of Corona? Do let me know in the comments section. On a serious note, let us all try to adopt hygienic ways of living, have a healthy vitamin C rich diet and adopt the Namaste culture. Let us all drive away Corona with love. What say? If you did like my video, please do hit the like button, share it as much as possible, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe. Stay tuned for my further videos. Until then, stay healthy and namaste.